Welcome to the second part of lesson 5.4. We are going to look at one type of factoring in this lesson. I know we're going to have 5 total. The reason why this one is being done on its own is this is the hardest one out of the 5. I think I can say that I mean, that's my opinion, but I feel like um, pretty much anyone would agree with that has done this. So um, what we're going to look at today is the type of trinomial that we saw last part of the lesson, but one big difference. It's where the a value does not equal 1. That makes it harder. So specifically, if you look at example 3, part A, that 2 right there, makes this harder than if that 2 wasn't there. If that 2 wasn't there, you would simply what multiplies a 6 and adds a -7. Okay, but that 2 complicates it because if you were to try to do this by the way that we did before, you can't just put x and x because you're multiplying the 2x squared. So it's got to be 2x and x. Okay. You could say, all right, I'm multiplying to a positive and adding to a negative, so both the signs would be negative. So that pair of numbers you're looking for would multiply to 6, but you have to factor it in that 2 when you're trying to add back to that -7. Like when you FOIL it back together, can you get that -7? So essentially, the way that I was taught in high school was, okay, well, come up with factor pairs of 6. It's either 6 and 1 or 1 and 6, or sorry, 6 and 1 uh, or 3 and 2, right? So, but it also matters where they go. So, like, I don't know, try 6 here, try 1 here. Does that work? If it doesn't, then maybe try 1 here and 6 here. If that doesn't work, then try 3 here and 2 here. If that doesn't work, then try 2 here and 3 here. And again, when I'm saying it works is when you FOIL it back together, do you get that middle term of -7? Um, that's the guess and check method. That's how I was taught. So you can do that. I used to teach 3 other ways to do it. We're going to focus on this way while we're virtual, plus it's just the best way to do it. So let's narrow it down to that. So the MUDS method is a way to do this without just guessing and checking. It's 4 steps that you can take that will get you the right answer in the end. So MUDS is an acronym, just like everything, where the first part is multiply. You take that 2, you multiply it over to the 6. Then you get x squared minus 7x plus 12. All right, that's the multiply step. The unfoil step is essentially what you learned last part of the lesson, where what multiplies a 12 and adds a -7. I've created a situation where you're just unfoiling the a trinomial with no number up front, right? So what multiplies a 12 and adds a -7? Remember, if you get stuck, you can always make the t-chart. You don't have to do this if you know that pair of numbers without making the chart. Don't make the chart. But I would try first 1 and 12. These both are negative, right? Because I'm multiplying to a positive and adding to a negative like we talked about. So if these are both negative, that's -13, not -7. So that didn't work. 2 being my next number I would try. It does divide, so it'd be 6. If I make them both negative, they are -8, not -7. So that didn't work. If I try 3, 12 divided by 3 is 4. -3 and -4 do add the -7. So there you go. That was the unfoil step. The next step is divide. Before you do that, you take the 2 that you multiplied across, and you put it back on as the coefficient. You divide where you can divide. So what that means is 2x and 3, no common factor. 2x and 4 share a common factor of 2. The last step is to simplify, however you wrote out the dividing. So 2x minus 3 stays the same. This one, 2x divided by 2 is x. -4 divided by 2 is -2. All right, so it turns out if I had done guess and check, when I got to the one that was 3 there and 2 there, that would have worked. Because if you FOIL it back together, 2x times -2 is -4. -3 times x is -7, which is the -7 you need to get back to there. So obviously a lot less writing for guess and check. MUD's method gives you the answer guaranteed by following those 4 steps. So it's whichever you prefer. You got to kind of go out on a limb with the guess and check and just try things until you get it, right? Whereas the MUDS method, it might take you a minute to do all 4 steps, but at the end, you're guaranteed to have the right answer. Again, personal preference for you as to how you want to proceed. I'm going to continue the lesson using the MUDS method because there's not really much else to talk about with guess and check, right? Like you set it up and you guess the numbers. So if you want to go that direction, you can certainly do these that way. Some of the, like examples B and C, numbers are pretty big, so guess and check is pretty tough at this point. Once you get more comfortable with the process, you might want to try that some more. Again, I'm going to continue the lesson doing the MUDS method that I showed on the right side for example A. So 8 times 15 would be my first step. So x squared plus 2x. 8 times 15 is 120. So, well, negative because the 15 was negative. So minus 120. Now I unfoil. I'm not going to make a t-chart, but again, if that's something that you want to do as you're working these out on your own, make the t-chart to help you find the pair of numbers. But for this one, I know that the signs are going to be opposite, right? Because I'm multiplying to a negative, so I'll put plus here, minus here. And then what multiplies the negative 120 and adds a 2 would be positive 12 and negative 10. Those two numbers multiplied to negative 120, those two numbers add to 2. Now I can put the 8 back on. And I divide where I can. In this case, it's actually in both. Between 8 and 12, you can divide a 4. Between 8 and 10, you can divide a 2. So you end up with 2x plus 3 times 4x minus 5. That's it. You're done. You can foil it back together to see if you get back to the original, which would be a way to check it, but that's it. Part C, numbers are pretty big, right? 6 times 35 is going to be 210. So you have x squared minus 31x plus 210. Again, if you can't figure out the pair that you're looking for when you're doing the unfoil step, just make a chart and start dividing the numbers and seeing if you can get the pair, because this will at least be the same signs, right? They're both negative, but they're the same signs. So you're looking for the pair of numbers that would add to 31, or add to negative 31. In this case, it actually is 21 and 10. Again, make a chart if you're having trouble finding that pair. Put the 6 back on. Now divide where you can. Between 6x and 21, you're going to divide a 3. Between 6x and 10, you're going to divide a 2. So you have x minus 7 here. Sorry, 2x minus 7. And then here you have 3x minus 5. Okay. One thing to note is when you divide out of both sides, like out of both parts, those two numbers are going to multiply to the original a value. 3 times 2 is 6. But you go back up a second. For part B, that 4 and that 2 that you took out of both parts are factors of 8. 4 times 2 is 8, right? When you divide it out of just the one part, you're dividing the whole a value. So the a value is 2, you're dividing a 2 there. I want you to try part D on your own. I'm going to pause it now, also to get my dog out of the room. And you can try part D, and I'll go over part D. E is a little harder, so I want to do E together. So try D, pause, and we'll come back. All right, we're back. Screen back open. All right. First step was multiply that 4 over that 3, made it a 12. Then I unfoiled, multiplies the 12, adds the 7 is 3 and 4. Put the 4 back on, divide it where I could. So I divided a 4 out of that one. So all 4, which matches the A, came out of the second part. And I got 4x plus 3 times x plus 1. All right, the reason why I didn't want to have you try E on your own is slight difference. Notice 12, 22, and 70. If you have a common factor you can divide out first, do it. Don't just automatically see that it has an a value that's not 1 and start with Mudd's method. It makes it a lot harder. The numbers aren't smaller. So what I would do is factor a 2 out to begin. And you have 6x squared plus 11x minus 35. Now I can do Mudd's method with this. That 2 is just going to stay out front and be part of your answer in the end. It's one of your factors, but it's not going to be consequential in anything else that I do other than it's just going to be there. So now I'm going to do Mudd's method with the part that's on the inside. So now I've got 2 times x squared plus 11x. 6 times 35 would be, well, I guess it's the same 210 we had before, right? So minus 210. Again, that 2 just stays out there, not doing anything other than being there. Now I'm going to try to unfoil based on the 210. So I have x here, so the multiplying to a negative, my signs are going to be opposites. The factor pair for 210 that would add to 11 is positive 21 and negative 10. Again, if you need to make a chart to figure that out, do that. If you can see those numbers, great. You don't need to do that stuff. Now I put the 6 back on. Again, the 2 just out there. And I divide where I can. So in this case, 3 out of this part and 2 out of this part. So I'm going to end up with 2 times 2x plus 7, and then 3x minus 5. Again, that 2 is just now part of your answer out front, and that we found in the beginning. You know what, I'm going to leave part F as part of the exit ticket. So you can give that one a try, and then when you try the exit ticket, I'll probably have one easier one, and then that one, which is relatively difficult just because the numbers are a little bigger. So that's my plan for the exit ticket. Give that a try, and we'll go over that in class. Let me know if you have any questions.